Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in for another one of my video. Today I don't plan to do a guitar lessons, and I will resume my guitar lessons soon. Uh, with me being busy lately, I haven't had time to do a lot of lessons, but I do plan to do some to finish up on "Screaming for Vengeance" album by Judas Priest, and I will do a couple of songs from the Pride album by White Lion to finish those. So those videos will be coming, and also a few Def Leppard video lessons as well. I just want to thank you for all the new subscribers, and thank you for watching my videos in my channel. And do tune back, and I'm going to do some more videos. Uh, I went to see Star Wars 3 times, the new Star Wars, The Last Jedi. So I went to see it last night for the 3rd time, and I like to do a review on the movie. This is my first movie review, and first of all, a lot of people are divided on how they feel about the new Star Wars movie. You have some people who are really excited and love the movie, and you have some people that, I should say, some people just really completely hated the movie. I don't really know how you can hate this movie, because you have to find something that you like. This is such a good movie. But personally, I love the movie very much. So this is my opinion, my point of view, and it may differ from you. Everyone has different opinion, but this is my review of this movie, and I absolutely loved it. And there's going to be spoilers in this review, so if you have not seen this movie, I suggest you to skip this video and watch my other guitar lessons. And before we start talking about this, I want to tell you that I watched the first Star Wars: A New Hope when I was 7 years old, and it was magical experience. Empire Strikes Back happened when I was 10 years old, 3 years later, 1980, and that was just amazing. And Empire Strikes Back to me will always be the best Star Wars movie, because based on our own experience, our childhood memories, you just can't top that childhood memory when you become an adult. So to me, Empire Strikes Back will always be better. I don't think anything else is going to make me feel the way I did when I was 10 years old watching Empire Strikes Back in the movie theater, with all those action sequences. It was just amazing, absolute magical. So, with that being said, I think Star Wars Star Wars is as big as it is because it attracts a lot of children. Okay, because it's a fantasy sci-fi, and the younger generation who watch Star Wars, depends on how old you were and which movie you watch first, and you will have that feeling for that particular movie. So Episode 1 prequels to us may suck, but it's for someone who actually grew up in about 7 or 10 year old and watched those movies for the first time. It may be the best thing they ever seen. So I think our opinions on movies are subjective, but we also take into account that Star Wars is mainly catered towards teenagers and children as a fantasy for longing for fantasy and sci-fi. So with that being said, the new Star Wars, the greatest thing about the new Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, is that it has excellent pacing. All the previous Star Wars movie has a lot of pacing issues to me. I love them all. I love the original trilogy the best. But they all have some kind of pacing issues. Some have a lot of talking. For example, Rogue One, I found it kind of slow until the very end, the last battle. However, it's still a great movie. But as far as pacing goes, this movie has no issues. It was just, from the beginning, 2.5 hours, just bam, 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 really quick. I never felt like I had to, was there any slowdown in the movie. Everything just speed along quickly from the beginning of the battle scene to the very end. It's just a very quick movie. And also the editing by Rian Johnson is phenomenal. At the end, if you remember the movie, at the end there was like 3 storylines happening at the same time, which happens in a lot of Star Wars movies. Usually towards the end, you have 2, 3 different plot lines going together and all come together. But I think this is the best one as far as editing goes. When we had the Finn and Rose storyline happening at the same time, as has Rey and Kylo in the throne room with Snoke, and also the Resistance is fleeing from the First Order. All three of those plot lines are masterfully put together, and how they cut and paste from one story to the other is just seamless. So that's why I love the editing of this movie. It just so both pacing and editing, 5 stars. Okay, one thing about Star Wars, the mythology behind the Star Wars universe is that there are time gates between all the movies, and which are filled in by books, games, or something extra to fill in those gaps. Also, there are characters appear in Star Wars and creatures appear in Star Wars. Not much is said about them, but they will also be covered in details outside of the movie itself. A great example is Darth Maul and Emperor Palpatine. When they first appear, Palpatine first appeared in the original trilogy, not much was known or said about him. And when we actually see him showing his power, and he got killed by by Darth Vader throwing him down the shaft. So the same thing with Darth Maul. Episode 1 prequel, he showed up. Nothing, we don't know anything about him. Bam, and he got killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Boba Fett is another one. That's one of the most popular characters in the Star Wars universe. But as far as Boba Fett is concerned, he is never a central character. He's always the characters on the side. But he became a really popular among the fans, and we don't know much about him outside the movies. So what I'm saying is that there was a lot of complaint about Snoke in the Last Jedi because not much was said about him, and to me that's uncommon. That's classic Star Wars to me, and we'll get to it later about Snoke's death. And so we'll stop right there for now. We'll put a cliff note on. We'll come back to it. Okay, as we mentioned before, Star Wars is catered, is kids friendly. So there's always cute creatures in Star Wars. In the new movie, The Last Jedi, we have the Pogs, which they are wonderful. They're so cute. So I think, and they are funny. And there's a couple of funny scenes in the movie. One with Chewbacca trying to eat one of the Pog, and the other one just had a sad look on the face, and just kids love it. Even adults, and I enjoyed it very much. So it doesn't bother me. I think that's the same problem with Jar Jar Binks in the prequel. The reason why Jar Jar did not work because he was not cute. No one liked Jar Jar because he was just this hideous, annoying thing. It was nothing cute about him. The Ewok at the time, I was 13 years old when Return of the Jedi came out. So I didn't find Ewok as cute anymore. But for someone who was younger and saw Ewok for the first time, they would have thought they were cute. In the new movie, we also have the fish nuns, the caretakers of the Ahch-To island where Luke Skywalker stays. They were funny. I enjoyed the scenes that we were in also. So none of the scenes were annoying. I do have to say though, the one scene where Luke Skywalker got the green milk from the creature by the ocean on the island. I don't know the name of that creature, but that was gross and disgusting. They could have done the milk somewhere further up instead of down below where the Gorn area is, and so that was kind of gross to me. That was kind of weird too. But other than that, everything else, all the creatures, the Fethiers, I think that's what they call the raising animals on a Cenobite. They were great animals too. Almost reminded me of Tauntaun from Empire Strikes Back. So the creatures were awesome in The Last Jedi. As far as all the negativity of the movie is concerned, I don't know, but the people that I talked to, most of my friends loved the movie, absolutely loved it, and they were like huge Star Wars fans. I had a couple of friends who liked the movie, but they're not hugely crazy about it like I am. But I have not met one person actually in person that they hate the movie. Actually, I take that back. I know one person hated the movie, and when I talked to him about it, he didn't really quite able to defend the points that he's trying to make. But like I say, opinions differ. If you hated the movie, that's cool with me. I mean, that's we all have different opinions, and the wonderful thing that we can actually communicate without insulting each other about why you think the movie sucks, and that you're stupid, and that I am stupid because I love the movie. So we put those insults aside to have good dialogues, communication. Yeah, I understand how you feel about the movie and why you hated it. Here's why I love it. So that's kind of dialogue we should have with one another. In fact, that's how we should have in any opinions or dialogues with anything, politics, music. We all have passions for different things. We're not created equal. Everyone has different views on different things. So that's quite okay. But back to what I was talking about, I think the reason why there are a lot of negativity towards the movie because there was a really high expectation. Because everyone expected to be the best Star Wars movie ever, or close to or near Empire Strikes Back. So there's that high expectation. Also, the first movie set up a lot of unknown, a lot of questions, and people want an answer, and they start coming up with their own theories to those questions. And if the movie does not turn out the way you want it to be, then there will be disappointment. I thought that the movie was totally surprise to me. I did not expect a lot of things happen in The Last Jedi. So it was like a roller coaster ride for me. And I think that's the best. If I think back to all the movies I enjoy the most, they all have the same quality. I don't know where the movie was going. And I just follow along and going on the ride, going on an adventure with the movie. That's how I felt with The Last Jedi. There was a lot of plot twists that I did not expect at all. And it was wonderful. But anyway, so I think that's the main reason why a lot of people don't like the movie because of that. As far as logic goes, some people say, "Oh, this thing can't happen," like flying princes, or Luke Skywalker projecting onto battlefield with Kylo, or Rey is getting contact with Kylo. Those things are impossible. Well, it's a sci-fi movie. It's the Force, and we've seen the Jedi's do a lot of things that defy physics. So none of those things really bother me that much. Well, let's talk about the movie itself. In the beginning of the movie, the first battle scene was incredible. It was one of the best battle scenes in all the Star Wars movies. When the Dreadnought showing up on the screen right in front of the camera, boom, like that. It was just it was awesome. It's different because we're not seeing a destroyer coming over the camera. But now we see a Dreadnought, bam, right in front of you, and all the details are so clear. I watched it on my IMAX last night. It was absolutely gorgeous. The whole battle scene. I really like the captain of the Dreadnought. Mark Lewis Jones was is the actor's name. He plays the character Captain Kennedy. He wasn't in the movie long. Again, that goes back to the Star Wars, how some certain characters only appear for a short period of time, but they become fan favorites. And I love this First Order captain. He just looked like a mean, a respected general or captain. So the scene was excellent, and the whole bombers coming through, and the one bomber left, destroy the Dreadnought at the last minute, and also the scene where Poe and BB-8 destroyed the last gun. He did a U-turn quickly, put on brake and do a U-turn and turn around and shot down the TIE fighter. That was absolutely amazing. Thrilling action. I love that sequence. General Hux. A lot of people didn't like how General Hux made out to be some comedian to be made fun of. Uh, but to me, I love it. I thought it was real funny. Some people think it was corny. I thought it was just really funny how someone who took everything so seriously and being played with by Poe, and not just played with, he tricked him. Basically, he tricked him to delay their attack so all the rebels, all the resistance can escape. So I thought that was well played. And then how General Hux think, I don't know why he thinks that he has all this power, because he has absolutely no superpower like Snoke or Kylo Ren. So he's not on par with Kylo. So for Kylo to toy with him, it just is natural. So that's that. I have no problem with General Hux. Hyperspace Tracker is another one that's new in this Star Wars movie we haven't seen before, but it was mentioned in Rogue One. Because of Hyperspace Tracker, we have this storyline where the First Order is able to follow Resistance and attempt to destroy, annihilate completely all the Resistance. And that also, Hyperspace Tracker also developed this new plot between Finn and Rose, where they are trying to disable it by going to Candlebite to track down the master codebreaker to take care of these problems. So Hyperspace Tracker, new in this Star Wars, and it was awesome. Good new add to the Star Wars universe. I think one of the slowest pacing in the movie is when Rey and Luke are on the Ahch-To island together. The interaction between them two and the relationship that they have with one another were well played out. Mark Hamill's acting in this movie is just phenomenal. His acting was just wonderful. Probably some of the best acting I've seen in any Star Wars movies. But he also revealed a lot about the Force on the island, which will come into play later in the plot. For example, he talking about he said that he will never leave this island, and he came to the island to die. He also say this is for the Jedi's to end, paraphrasing it. So and he stuck by it. He stuck by it. And that's why at the end he did not travel outside the island to meet Kylo Ren in person. So and also we also review a lot of where this new trilogy is going, because Luke is talking about that Jedi does not control the Force. The Force is everything that's all around us. To say that Jedi controls the Force is vanity. And he goes on to talk about how the Skywalker bloodline, the legend. He's just like, this is it should not be. And basically, this whole thing's a failure, and which turned into another plotline where Yoda shows up, which is another thing I love about this movie, that we get to see Yoda again, in a spirit form and not in physical form, of course. But the conversation Yoda had with Luke Skywalker reminds me a lot of Empire Strikes Back. But this time, Luke is the master and Rey is the student. And one thing I love about Yoda is that the Yoda say that the greatest teacher failure is, and that's pretty much the theme of this movie. We see time and time again that failures are happening with the Resistance, but they never lost that hope. They never completely lost. In fact, because of failure, we could say that they learn from the lessons, and they are risen from the ashes and will become something more great and more successful in Episode 9, which we will see when that movie comes out. But in the meantime, I think it's also a good lesson, a good wisdom for all of us to learn that not everything is successful in life. There are failures. Even the Jedi. And Jedi are not perfect. They do make mistakes. And Luke Skywalker mentioned about how in, well, Darth Vader happens because they train Anakin Skywalker, but they also didn't do a good job in training Anakin Skywalker, and he drifted to the dark side. So basically, saying that the Jedi's helped created Darth Vader and the Sith lore. So, so the theology or the Jedi Council, the theology behind the Force, play out on the island is very revealing. I love every scene of it, and it's also very comical. When Chewbacca was eating the Pog and the Pog was crying, like I say, and also the fish nun, and how Rey always destroying something around the caretakers. That's funny. One thing that I love the most about the scene is that when Luke Skywalker sees R2-D2 for the first time again after all this year, he goes, R2. He had that tone just like when Luke Skywalker was as a farm boy in A New Hope. So that was well played. That was a very emotional scene. It's like my childhood just come back alive, seeing that scene again. Another great scene is when Chewbacca kicked in the door, and you can see Luke has this excitement seeing Chewbacca, and then he realized that they came in on a Falcon, but where's Han? And then he realized something really bad happened. That's a very good scene as well. Okay, another real funny scene in the movie between Rey and Luke on the island is when Luke was questioning where Rey came from, and Rey said, "I came from nowhere," and Luke Skywalker said, "No one comes from nowhere," and Rey replied, "I came from Jakku," and Luke said, "Oh, that's pretty much nowhere." That scene is hilarious. And I don't see how anyone not liking that scene. It was hilarious. So I enjoyed that very much. The whole scene on the islands, I don't find any issues with it, except like I said earlier, the creature where getting the green milk out, that was kind of weird. So that's the only part that I don't like about all the scenes on the island. Also, it's also very revealing where Luke Skywalker talking about Kylo Ren and how Kylo Ren turned. That kind of solved some of the question we had from the first movie. And basically, Luke Skywalker tells one story about how Kylo Ren turned on him, and Kylo Ren tells another story to Rey, saying, "No, that's not what happened. This is what happened." And then Rey questioned Luke again, and Luke finally came clean about what happened. Basically, Luke wanted to destroy Kylo because he senses raw power at first, and then he has softened his heart, but at the same time Kylo Ren woke up and knew what Luke Skywalker was planning to do. So Ben Solo strike first at Luke Skywalker. So Luke Skywalker kind of blamed himself to create Kylo Ren because of that. So all the scenes, like I say, on the island are great. All right, let's talk about the Princess Leia scene where she got blasted out of the battleship. At first, Kylo Ren was going to blast her, and then he had change of heart because that is his mother. I don't care how evil you are. If you know that your mom is in there, for him to hesitate to destroy Leia, that shows he still has a human side to him, which is I think is really important too. And then the other TIE fighter shot and blasted Princess Leia out into space. And then Princess Leia used the Force to bring herself back into the spaceship. To me, that scene is really beautiful because we have never seen Princess Leia use the Force before. We knew all along that she's as strong as Luke because she is a Skywalker bloodline. And we also say before that she is as strong as Luke. To see her use the Force this way is just beautiful. It's brilliant. Also, with Carrie Fisher being passed away, rest in peace for Carrie. It's just it's almost a metaphor that Carrie Fisher passed on, but she lives on inside all of us. spiritually. So to see that Leia looks like she was dead for a minute there, and then she basically, I think she was blacked out. She wasn't dead, and then she brought herself back using the Force. Obviously, she was injured. She was hurt. That's why when she came back to the ship, and she was spent, and she ended up being in a coma. Uh, so it's not like she wasn't injured. So she was injured from this experience. But the whole scene was beautiful to me. I didn't see any problem with, people say, "Oh, flying princess." Well, she is in space. There's no gravity. How else she's going to get back on the spaceship? With the Force to pull herself in. It looks like she was flying. Of course, there's no other way to get around that. So one of the very interesting thing about Snoke, Supreme Leader Snoke, is his power, and to realize that Rey and Kylo had the Force connection, where they met together, even though they're far apart from each other, was instrumental, arranged by Snoke to bridge their minds together like that. It shows how powerful Snoke is. And also in the throne room, just before Snoke was killed, we saw how powerful Snoke was. He was a very scary, powerful guy. He toyed around with Kylo and Rey like they are nothing. He can lift up Rey, threw her around like nobody's business. So to say that, oh, Snoke just got killed out of nowhere, that's not true, because we see how powerful he is. In this particular movie. Speaking of Rey, and I want to go back and talk about Rey in the cave. And when she's trying to find out who her parent is, and when she go into the cave, and then she see the shadows coming towards her behind the rock, the glass rock, and then it turned out to be herself. It's kind of, to me, it's a lot like the Empire Strikes Back, the Dark Side Cave scene where Luke Skywalker strike down the imaginary Darth Vader, and then when he beheaded Darth Vader and his face revealed inside Darth Vader. To me, those two scenes are kind of similar with one another. I don't know where this is going to go in terms of Rey, his parents' origin, or Rey's origin. If they stick by this storyline where she came from nothing, I think it's a brilliant storyline, because just like Luke said earlier in the movie, that to say that Jedi control the Force, Jedi's can the only one who has this power is vanity. So to say that Rey came from nothing, that also be pretty cool for her to empower the Force. But it could be a diversion. It may be something different in terms of Rey's origin. She may came from nothing, kind of like how Anakin was conceived by his mom. But the Force, the midichlorian, basically is the main father to create Anakin. Maybe Rey is a conception of the Force altogether. There's nobody involved, no human beings involved. Maybe she is the Force, part of the Force. And the junk trader that Kylo mentioned, and they may just be adopted parents of Rey. They found this child, raised her, has really no blood relationship, so they sold her. So that could be the storyline in Episode 9, but I don't know, and I don't speculate it. And usually I go into movies like that cold, and just let the movie take me to a new place. To me, that's movie magic. To get yourself involved in the world of magic in the movie is part of the experience. And let's go back and talk about the Snoke scene for a while there. Snoke had to die, because if he does not die, how else are they going to give power to make Kylo the most powerful person in the First Order? They have to kill off Snoke in order for this to happen. So it makes total sense. They can't wait till Episode 9. They got to make this happen now. So again, there's a lot of gaps in Star Wars universe. If we want to know more about Snoke, I'm sure there'll be books later about Snoke, or video games or something in media outside the movie to know more about his characters and his background. But we do know a little bit about that because on the Star Wars book, the Star Wars Aftermath book, we learned that the First Order was searching for power, and they found this unknown power. That's ancient, unknown power. Uh, so I think that's Snoke. So that's his origin of Snoke. It's somewhere outside, outer space, ancient and powerful, more powerful than the Sith Lords. Uh, and also, he did watch the rise and fall of the Empire, as mentioned in Force Awakens book. So we get a sense that Snoke has been planning this all along. He foresee that the Empire is going to fall, and he is going to rise from he's going to benefit from the fall of the Empire to become this supreme leader. So we already know something about Snoke, so we're going to know more about it. But for this particular movie, I don't have any issues that they killed him off, because we need that storyline to get Kylo going. But you can't just deny that the throne room where Snoke and his 8 Praetorian guards fought against Kylo and Rey. It was one of the best battle scene in Star Wars. I will put that up next to the Duel of Fate with Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. To me, that's the best Star Wars battle scene, a Jedi sword fight scene. This would be the second best. Okay, the Candle Bite storyline. A lot of people don't like that. I don't have any issues with it because if you look at Star Wars, we had the Cantina from A New Hope. We had Jabba's Palace with the musical in the special edition edit. So for us to have a happy area where there's crowded aliens from different universes, different places, it's okay to me. It actually shows how diverse Star Wars is by seeing places like that. But I think there's 5 reasons. The 5 reasons why Candlebite storyline is very important. First of all, as I mentioned before, it is not uncommon for Star Wars to have a place like Candlebite. So it's not new to me. So Ewok's place is kind of like that too. So I don't have any issues with that. Second, it was also character development for Finn, because Finn was still skittish. He was trying to escape. He was not very courageous, and by the end of the movie, we see Finn become this courageous person who's going to sacrifice himself for the Resistance. How he get to that point, I think Kenneth Bite had a lot to do with it, because he saw that underlying this beautiful city, there's this ugly side where children slave are being tortured, kept away from the freedom, and the fathier animals are being tortured in the race. So I think that's important to Finn's development as a character. Also, the failure of the mission itself plays a role in the theme of the movie. Where I said earlier about how Yoda say that the greatest teacher failure is. So this mission is a failure, but it's not really a failure because Finn is going to be developed. His character will probably see what he is capable of in Episode 9. And one more thing is that we get to see the relationship between Finn and Rose. So if they did not have that relationship, then Rose would not have helped Finn at the end and try to sacrifice herself to save Finn. So that's important as well. Another reason is that Kenobi is one place we can see that there's no black and white. There's no black and white of good and evil. So we have these people who are selling arms to both First Order and the Resistance. So they are doing black and white. They're doing both good and evil to serve their own purposes. So we'll get to the point where there's no gray area. There is a gray area in the universe, and not just everything's so black and white. So that's a good theme that we can get into with Cenobite. And also the last reason is that the children's slave was inspired by the resistance because Finn and Rose were there. And we saw at the end of the movie, the very last scene, where the boy used force to grab his broom, and he had a rebel reign on. And I think that's very significant because I don't know who that boy's going to become, but I know that he has control of the Force. So maybe he's like Rey. Maybe he's the new generation of Jedi. We're not sure where this is going to go, but it's going to be very interesting to see in Episode 9 where this is going to lead to. Okay, so Cenobite, we have this character, this codebreaker. They got put in jail. Finn and Rose got put in jail, and they met this codebreaker who is not the master codebreaker that they were intended to find. They found Benicio del Toro, a stuttering codebreaker. Personally, I don't really like Benicio's character in the movie. The main reason why I don't like his character is that he talks about that don't pick sides. He's a person that will not pick side. He will not pick sides of the good. Will not pick sides of the bad. However, we learned that he betrayed Finn and Rose by giving up information, which lead to a lot of people being killed by First Order at his own gain, on financial gain for DJ, which is Benicio del Toro's character. So to me, he actually picked a side because he betrayed the good side, Finn and Rose, and he picked to side with First Order, even though it's for his own gain. Even though that he said that he would not pick a side, he did pick a side. So to me that's contradiction to what he say. So I think that's a flaw in his character, not necessarily Benicio del Toro's performance, which I always liked him as an actor, but I think that the philosophy of him as a character, there are flaws. Okay, Captain Phasma. Let's talk about her for a minute. We talked about how Boba Fett, all these characters, Palpatine, Darth Maul, they were not characters that explained fully in Star Wars movie. Phasma was one of those characters. In the first movie, The Force Awakens, we learned that she was thrown in the trash compactor by Han Solo and Finn, but we never learned that she was killed. But she's here in this movie, but she was, and she did get killed at the end with the explosion, and she fell down into the pit of fire. And there's no way she can survive that. But she did get a nice fight and several dialogues with Finn. So to me, that's not an issue. It's not uncommon for Star Wars to do that to characters. It becomes part of the mythology of the Star Wars universe. So I'm cool with that scene. And by the way, I do love Captain Phasma. I have one of her action figure here. Speaking of action figures, so here's my Captain Phasma action figure. Still in the box. It's Elite series from Disney. I got quite a few of those. Here's one, which is a special edition. It's the Boba Fett action figure. And if you see all my Guitar Lesson video, you'll see Darth Vader in the background in all my videos. That's where he stays. I also have a lot of Star Wars action figures around my room. So if you didn't know I was a Star Wars fan before, now you know. Alright, so let's bring this to the last part of this video. We're talking about the ending of the movie. The ending of Last Jedi is one of the best scenes in all the Star Wars movie. The last part where Luke Skywalker walked onto the battlefield facing the entire army of AT-AT Walker, and then faced Kylo Ren. The John Williams music score playing in the background. It is amazing. I was just like, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh, this is so awesome. So, great scene. And some people are upset because Luke Skywalker was not physically there. He projected himself onto the battlefield. To me, that's not an issue, because while he did that, he did use up all his physical energy, ability to project himself onto the battlefield. Because we see at the end, after this scene, that Luke Skywalker was gone. He's no longer in the physical world. He is now part of the Force that's surrounds that becomes this energy around us, all because he spent himself and sacrificed himself on this battlefield. Even though he's not there, he did sacrifice himself in many ways than one. So that's a great scene, and Luke Skywalker's scene with Leia at the end, that's also very epic. And to me, the best scene in this entire movie, like I say, there's two best scenes in this entire movie. One is when Luke Skywalker facing the entire army of AT&T Walker, and Kylo just blast him with guns, guns after guns. That was just incredible. And then Luke Skywalker just kind of brush it off. Awesome, phenomenal, beautiful. And the very last scene when we see Luke Skywalker seeing the two suns, like when he was on Tatooine, and seeing the two suns, we hear the Luke Skywalker theme playing in the background by John Williams, and then Luke Skywalker disappear. It was just a beautiful, for someone like me who's 40 years into Star Wars since I was 7 years old, to experience that scene and think back when I was 7-year-old boy, to see Luke Skywalker standing on his Uncle Owen's farm and looking out to the two suns. This brings full circle. I think it's a good ending to Luke Skywalker's a legend, and as a Jedi, and it's also a good ending to this movie, where everything comes to a head while Kylo Ren thinks that he just almost completely annihilated the rebels or the resistance. Just like Luke Skywalker say, this is just the beginning. The war just beginning. The resistance will start over, and he is not the last Jedi. So, which will bring us to episode 9. And I think it's just a great ending to the movie. And one thing I want to mention about one thing that I want to say is that at one point Luke say that this is not going to go the way you think. He say that when Rey was telling him that she's going to find Kylo Ren. She's going to try to turn Kylo into turn him away from the dark side, and to help with the resistance. That's when Luke said that this is not going to go the way you think. To me, that's a metaphor for the entire movie. Nothing anyone thought before this movie is going to end up the way that they are seeing on this big screen of this how movie turns out. Which is, again, that's why I love this movie. There's a lot of surprises in the movie. Great music. Throne room battle scene in the beginning. Luke Skywalker battle scene at the end. Phenomenal. We can't top those. It's some of the best Star Wars scene that we have seen on the movie screen. So that's my review of this movie. And like I said, I loved it. I saw it 3 times. I'm probably going to go see it again. Again, please leave your feedback and your opinion about how you feel about this movie. And if you hated it, if you don't like it, I understand. Like I say, everyone has different opinions, and I can't change your mind, and I don't think you can change my mind as well in terms of how I feel about the movie. And thank you for watching. And last thing I want to say is Happy New Year. And if you are going out tonight, and please drive safe, and we'll see you next year. I'm going to make more guitar videos. Thanks for your time. Talk to you later. Bye.